As I look to understand the distinctions among you, I think I found one. And I want to start with you, because I think you just said nobody's been talking about jobs or the economy in the year and a half that you've been away, including Premier McGuinty and the Liberal government?
The whole bunch. And I got to tell you that when you're on the outside like I was, no one was talking about the economy. And when I started talking about the economy, people said, yeah, we want to get to that. When I went to Coburg yesterday, that's what they were talking about. And when I was on the phone last night with 17 leaders of the North, that's what they were talking about.
And the McGuinty government has not
Steve,
been.
you know what?
It's been a conversation about a lot of very important things for a whole bunch of reasons. Minority government, number one. We're not used to that. I'm used to having to fight in the House because I came from opposition. And I recognize that in a minority environment, the whole world is different from the 2 terms of government that most of the folks here have had. But I was there in 1995. I was there watching what Mike Harris was doing when he had a majority government. He wasn't talking about jobs either, but the economy was flourishing.
Okay, let's get some feedback.
Well,
Kathleen,
I think the reality is we wouldn't have recovered 130% of the jobs that we lost before the downturn if we hadn't been talking about jobs in the economy. We absolutely have been. And the Southwest Ontario Development Fund, the Eastern Ontario Development Fund that we've put in place have created jobs, have put in place support for business. So we absolutely have been talking about jobs.
I think the media government has to at least get credit for the fact there's been 2 recoveries that it accomplished. And I've been out for longer, for the last 5.5 years, but essentially there was a recovery from Mike Harris, and that was in public services and in modernizing and putting us somewhere else and where we had to be on energy, on education, on a bunch of things. And then there's a recovery from the recession. So, Senator, it's not quite fair to say that I think jobs were an obsession for the government. I think if you look at what we're doing in the North, look what we're doing in agriculture and so on, what's missing is a way to pull all that together in a way that meets what Mr. Drummond's talking about, which is transformational. Transformational isn't just running better government services. It's how do we inspire our business leaders for, whether you call it dead cash or not, whether it's money that isn't being employed, we still have a lot of young people, a lot of people who are in temporary or in uncertain jobs. That's where we have to be laser beam on. So I don't think it's not about talk, it's about translating some of that into a more focused plan in a way that engages the wider business community and the wider Ontario community.
Well, and it's not only that we've recovered 130% of the jobs that we've lost, which is much better than the situation in the United States, but also those are good, high-paying jobs. 80% of them are full-time jobs. But what we haven't done enough of, perhaps, is if you're over the age of 25, the unemployment rate is less than 6% now, which is actually, it's come down below the level it was before the recession. Unless you happen to be under the age of 25, then that unemployment rate, when you include those young persons under 25 who are no longer looking for employment, it's almost 20%. So almost 1 out of every 5 of our young people in this province aren't able to find jobs. We have the best education system in the English-speaking world. We have the highest level of participation in the OECD and the industrialized countries in terms of the participation in postgraduate education. But then for some reason we seem to hit a wall. And I know it's a global circumstance, partly, but what I'm calling it a crisis. We need to invest in our young people, our young entrepreneurs, making sure they're getting the skills that they need.
The allegation from your colleague here is that you guys haven't talked jobs in the economy enough in the past couple of years.
You know, over the last, certainly last 5 years since I've been there, we have been concentrating on our economic recovery after the recession, and we've done a good job in terms of bringing back those jobs. In fact, it was our government that stepped up to the plate, the only sub-jurisdiction in North America to help the automotive industry. Others called it corporate welfare, but we protected over 400,000 jobs. And what we need to do now going further is increase that attraction of investment into Ontario. We are the 2nd or 3rd now largest jurisdiction in North America, in the world for that matter, for that investment, and the retention rate here is very high. What we need to do is look at secondary manufacturing. We need to do more processing in Ontario and branding of Ontario to the world markets.
Glenn Murray?
So I'm still not hearing a plan. So I agree. I don't agree with Sandra. Bailing out the auto sector, which you were part of, and I think was one of the best things. One of the reasons I ran 3 years ago was because of the legacy of this government, which I'm very proud of. I wish I had been part of it the way that Harinder and Kathleen. I think we should all be very proud of that. We turned this economy around coming out of 2008 like none other, and we fought the opposition parties who disagreed with us. So the question for us now is, where do we go next? Because the next thing we do is not bail out the auto sector again, so what you do? So 4.4% of companies now are generating almost 50% of their jobs. And they're generating the jobs that Eric is talking about because it's young people. These are 19 to 25-year-olds who are starting these companies. So I put out a policy yesterday, which I'm hoping I'd love to debate, which basically says it'll bring in $2 billion of additional tax revenue, reduce the tax on on high-risk capital that you need to fuel these companies because they burn through capital and provoke all that dead capital, Mark Carney is out there, to get it working to create businesses in Cornwall and small towns across that and our big cities. So I'm hoping that, what I bring to this is a competency and understanding of this new economy. I think we did the right things in 2003 and 2008. I'm proposing the things we need to do in 2013, and I think if we do this, we'll be able to bring our deficit down faster and grow companies faster.
You say that you have led a recovery that is among the best in North America, and part of the cost of doing that is a deficit which is now clocking in at $14.4 billion. I understand you felt you had to make those investments in order to help turn things around, but now we got to do something about that. I think you're the one candidate who is talking about balancing the budget a year ahead of everybody else.
Yes, sir.
And I think we need to understand how you plan to do that.
Yeah, let me tell you, I think it is really important for us to balance the budget as quickly as we can. I think that there are a couple of reasons for it. If we want to attract foreign direct investment in this province, and if we don't balance the budget, we will stifle the economy. So I'm proposing 3 measures on that front. One is that we have to make this economy grow. How can we make this economy grow is I'm proposing a 100-day plan in which we will focus on actually helping our small business to really grow. We will help them by having a holistic approach which will focus on increasing productivity, providing them the access to the capital that we need to provide them, but also helping them to actually open the global markets. I was in Markham yesterday at Nova Plastic. You were there before me. You talk to this person, he has come up with an excellent idea to actually penetrate the global market, but he needs some assistance from the government to do that. The second is we also need to assist people who create jobs in this province. That's why I'm proposing that we should give them employment tax credit. So those are the revenue measures that, in my mind, will increase the GDP at least.
But you know the NDP is offering the same thing.
But not the same thing, actually, not the same thing. They were offering 10% credit up to a maximum of 10,000, 5% credit up to a maximum of 10,000. That means is you have to earn $200,000 in order to get the tax credit.
So
let me just say the second step.
Finish the thought. Yeah.
I think the other point is we need to also work on the reducing costs in this province as well. So I'm also proposing that we should reduce our Ontario public service by 3% in 3 years. And that is quite doable if we do it by actually attrition and also by the retirements.
Okay.
Support Ontario's public television. Donate at tvo.org.